Hey! How you doing, man? Let me just make sure these volume levels are okay. I think they're fine. But yeah, how you doing? I'm not usually around this late, but my sleep schedule is not not where it should be at all, so here we are. It is 2 in the morning for me currently. But yeah, it is what it is. They call me the sandwich. They call you the sandwich, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good.
The tier listing was a really good idea.
Thank you. I was thinking about it and I was like, oh, that's a simple thing to do, and that's like good content that gets you talking and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a really good idea. They're just a pain. They can be a pain to set up. Is the
A
only
little
thing.
bit, a little bit.
Um, but yeah. Savathun is my favorite villain. Really. I don't know where I'm gonna put her on this thing, but I don't know if I would put her in the top or not. She's up there though. I'm gonna change this to be.
I definitely think in terms of like what we have now, I do think Savathun probably is the most iconic Destiny villain at this point, even more so than the Witness, just because she's been
Yeah.
involved in so many parts of the story.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. She's become, honestly, like one of the main characters at this point. Even more than the
Yeah,
Witness.
honestly, yeah. Really, if you really think about like the Witness, even though they're building up the Witness as the main villain, it really hasn't done too much in the story if you really think about it.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of. I mean, we haven't even met the character yet, and we're gonna kill it when we see it first. So,
Yeah,
do we even know what the Witness
gonna-
looks like?
it's gonna be like, what's up? Did you say something?
Yeah,
I think
no,
I opened
sorry.
up the
No, I said,
I
do we
opened up
like?
the stream.
Does our character even know what the Witness looks like?
I I don't think we've even seen I don't think our character has even seen the Witness. I think the only allies I think we have that have seen the Witness is I assume Savathun has. Mara I think did once cuz she like went out and like nuked a pyramid or something and something like that. I hope I'm not spreading misinformation. And then I guess the Vanguard and Elsie Bray and all of them at like the end of Lightfall, they kind of saw it, the speck of it moving into the Traveler. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's really like characters like have seen the Witness too much. Ours hasn't. The Young Wolf hasn't.
No. That's crazy, dude. Like, uh, that's just how the story went, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think we should just get straight into this thing. I added in a few extras, and honestly, we're probably gonna end up adding more as we go along. I probably realize like there's something missing, but hey, how do you? I don't know how to pronounce your name. Dazzlevast? Dazzlevast? I'm sorry. Anyway, how
Us
you
at
doing?
Dazzlevast,
Dazzlevast.
I'm
And
guessing.
Alex. My favorite villain might be Savathun by default. Ooh, interesting. I'm just gonna go from top to bottom, and the first one that I have here is cheeky Panoptes from Curse of Osiris. Somebody who absolutely loves this character is actually Archival Mind. And ooh, the architects. Well, I mean, we got one of them right over here. But Archival Mind loves Panoptes. I think that honestly, my favorite thing about Panoptes is probably the name, just because it's a cool name. And I mean, it's an interesting, unique-looking character as well when it comes to the Vex. But apart from that, I mean, okay, so like one of the main ways I'm going to be ranking and determining where these individuals end up is what actual threat they posed to the universe and to the characters. And although Panoptes was kind of like a meme villain in a lot of ways, but one thing that was actually pretty significant about it was that it was able to simulate and I guess see paracausality. It's a weird way of saying it, but I mean,
Yeah.
even Osiris says it can see our light or whatever, and that's not really anything to joke about. It's a pretty big threat.
Yeah,
And,
that is kind of a big deal. It didn't have much of a presence in the story, though.
it was a good concept, but a poor execution.
Its design is awesome.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. But in terms of like what we actually, hey Errol, how you doing, man? In terms of what we actually got in the end and how they handled it, again, like, I think a lot of people would put this thing in like trash, but the concept kind of, I'm gonna put it in C. I don't know. I think B's a little bit too generous, but I think I'm gonna put C for concept. How about that? I think the concept was good. I think the execution was lacking. Whatever.
The design's definitely cool.
Riven. The design was really good. It was really good. But I think
in fact, I remember hearing a really cool theory, back in the day, that the Vex probably based that design on Oryx. I don't know how much merit there would be to that, but I think it's kind of an interesting idea, where like when they invaded his throne world, they were so influenced by him that they started like making stuff in his image. I think that's a really interesting idea.
That would be really cool. I mean, also, I wonder like which is older. Like, I feel like Quria would have been older, right?
I think Quria would have been much older, I would assume, because I'm pretty sure that Panoptes was just in charge of the Infinite Forest on Mercury.
Yeah.
I would imagine Quria is much older.
Yeah.
So it could have been like it could have been based on Quria. I really think that like whole type of frame is like some sort of, I think that has to be like a form of combat frame of some sort. The like armed hydras, like the hydras with arms. Because Quria is the oldest one that we know of, and she was she was designed for combat, I'm pretty sure, because she was designed to perfect the sword logic.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And John makes a really good point, which is that if the Vex are the main threat of the next saga, they need to give them a central villain and leader. And I mean, like, there's a few different Vex boys on this list, and none of them, and it's kind of a problem with the Vex, which is that there is no real central leadership. And my guess is, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if like in the future we do get like a I don't know, like a core mind, or like a, I don't know, Uber
Oh
Vex,
yeah, for sure.
cheeky Skynet or something.
Yeah, with the direction the story's heading, I'm guessing either like Maya or Chioma or Clovis or someone like that's gonna control them. That, or a gentleman whose name rhymes with the Squinower or something.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do with them.
Oh, can you imagine if it was Praedyth? That'd be so sad, dude.
Oh no! I wouldn't be surprised if he's our ally in Echoes.
Yeah, me too. I think that's my guess of where they're gonna go with it, and the Maya and Dr. Shim and all that. Ishtar. But yeah, no, Riven's a bit of a weird one because I don't really see Riven as a... So character-wise, okay, let me play this. I see Riven as an antagonist, but I don't see Riven as a villain. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Because ultimately, Riven was just trying to get free, and I
Mhm.
mean there is the curse and all that, but that was kind of like a contingency, like if she died.
Yeah. Because honestly, with Forsaken, this is something I've been preaching since Forsaken came out. If you really get down to it, everything that happened in Forsaken, the curse on the Dreaming City, Cade's death, that was all Savathun's fault in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah, or even
Because
Oryx, because Oryx took her to begin with.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, it was Savathun, I'm pretty sure, who was like in control of her at that moment, who got her to manipulate Uldren, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Wait, really?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could have been like little influences over time, but like I know, like mainly his actions after he broke out of the prison were influenced by Riven, and I would assume by extension Savathun, because that was all part of her plan to find a way into the distributary to create her murder battery thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I don't really see Riven as like a massive evil character. I think it was mainly just about getting free, and in a way I think the whole taken aspect of that was just the price she was willing to pay to get that.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the impact that she had, and I guess the threat that she presented to the character and to the universe, large scale, not anything too crazy, but in terms of like the Dreaming City and then, specific characters, ultimately she was responsible for the curse and the Dreaming City being the way it is right now. She's responsible by extension for Cade's death and Uldren and all of that. And I think honestly, if she did escape and she was taken, I think that would have been... It's kind of it's not really something that you can predict or you could really like estimate what would have happened, but you have an Ahamkara that has the ability to do stuff with Taken. Who knows where that could have gone? And another aspect is no, this is just a spitball theory, but you had the wishing wall that was designed to get wishes from like an Ahamkara without having any kind of negative thing. If the Ahamkara is taken, then theoretically, does that also mean its master can get wishes without any backlash? Because like the Ahamkara purely is going to be serving its master then. So if that was true, can you imagine Savathun with an Ahamkara that's serving her?
Oh. Yeah, that would be crazy. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I don't think that Savathun's wish to curse the Dreaming City had any negative consequences towards her that we know of. Just because, like, she orchestrated it so well.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to get wishy-washy with it, you could maybe say her daughter dying. But, I mean, it's kind of...
Yeah, that's kind of iffy, though, because the Hive... I reckon the Hive don't care too much about that sort of thing. Like, I imagine if her daughter was like, oh, I'm stuck in a death loop, help me, she would be like, oh, well, if you're, like, in a death loop, then you deserve it, pretty much.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe she even has a throne world of her own, I don't know. But, yeah. But for Riven, I'm gonna put her in B. I'm not gonna put her in the same tier as Panoptes, but I don't feel like she is... Again, like, she isn't like a proper villain in that sense. And it's kind of hard to tell like what would have happened if she did get free and all of that. I'm
Mhm.
not really like, obviously, like if all of the taken eggs hatched, that would be a different situation. But I don't think there's any situation where she breaks free and she escapes, and then we just let the eggs hatch. I think either way we would have probably destroyed the eggs. So I'm gonna put
Yeah.
her in B. Where I'm gonna put her. I don't know what
Are
people's
you just
duties.
are you rating it solely just in terms of um how they are as a villain, or just like their writing in general?
Oh, kind of a mix of everything, but I'm mainly doing it through the lens of like them as a villain and what the threat is that they
Okay.
present to all of that.
I
Yeah,
think that's fair then. Yeah.
yeah.
Like she could have been very dangerous, but we kind of put a stop to it, I'd say.
I think if the tier list was like just characters for the sake of character, it would be a little bit different. Because I do think
I
she is well
gotcha.
written, but yeah, I'm thinking mainly as like a threat. I have no
Yeah.
idea who this is. This like Kilgrath
Um
or something?
let me open up the list real quick. I cannot tell. That might be. Let me check. Um
Uh,
I
I,
that might be Kilgrath.
I don't care. We're moving on from that. I really don't.
Or is that the high that might be the high celebrant actually. I cannot tell. I genuinely
Yeah,
can't tell.
I don't know. I mean, if it's the High Celebrant, I'm no. Do you know what? I don't even care if this is the dude that killed Sagira because it was in a blog, and just
Yeah, oh my god. It was I think oh my god.
yeah, that really made me mad.
That should like you could like not even like a little cutscene. Not even a
No.
little cutscene, not even in-game dialogue. They were just like, "Oh, she's dead. We'll just have to deal with it." Oh man.
Yep. Can you imagine people
Yeah, and
in
I
Witch Queen?
forgot.
They're like, wait, Sagira's died?
That's true because the seasonal content's not in the game anymore. So someone played like if
Curse of
someone played like during
Osiris.
year 1 and 2, and then they took a break and didn't come back until Witch Queen,
Yep.
and they're like, oh, the other stuff's sunset. I'll play this new Witch Queen campaign, and then they're like, oh, look, it's
Oh wait,
Sagira's
did I miss the
carcass.
cutscene where she died? Did I skip the cutscene by accident? Yeah.
Oh, unfortunate.
Um, Next we've got Nokris, and I'm not gonna lie, I was so severely disappointed by this character. And honestly, I kind of get the feeling that, honestly, I'm almost getting Nezarec vibes here, where I kind of wonder if the character was meant to be more, and then it just kind of ended up getting just watered down and just diluted.
I
Because,
definitely think
yeah,
so.
I remember playing the Taken King for the first time, and I remember getting to those statues, and it's like, oh, there's Oryx, and there's Crota, and then this one is Nokris, but there's nothing else about it. And I'm like, oh, Crota has a
Yeah.
brother. Interesting. And it's like everybody was like speculating, oh, what did Nokris do? And this, that, and the other. And then in the end, we just get a, I don't know,
Strike boss.
yeah, just a strike boss. And like, granted, like it's Mark Hamill, but I
Pretty
don't
sure
know.
it wasn't actually.
I thought it was that voiced him.
Um, I've heard people say that it's Mark Hamill, but I've heard other people say that he confirmed on his Twitter that it wasn't. I'm not 100% positive. It definitely sounds like him though, for sure. But I have
Oh
no
yeah,
idea.
there's his. I just saw Mark Hamill tweeted saying, "I've done so many voice overs over the years. There's tons I've forgotten. I have no memory of Knockers or what show/game he appeared in.
Mm,
So I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter.
yeah.
Um, I'm gonna put this in C tier honestly because again, it's the concept. So I think Knockers. I think the real issue with Knockers is it really is. There's a lot of parallels to Nezarec here, where you have Nokris, and what is like the core concept of the character? It is the son of Oryx who broke away and I guess broke the sword logic and was exiled because the things he was doing, like they were just it was heresy. But what ended up happening to
Yeah.
the character in the end was they just turned him into a tool and a pawn. Like, oh, he's
Yeah, pretty
basically a
much.
pawn of Savathun, or he's a tool of Zol, and it's just like the character loses a lot of his agency then effectively, and you know, necromancy and all that, you can kind of look at it as cool, but then it gets again watered down when you realize that the only reason they really did this was because it was Savathun trying to figure out how to get rid of the worms, right? And I think it also would have been so much cool. I mean, granted, I do think the Lucent Hive trying to resurrect Oryx would have been cool. But can you imagine like a
Hmm.
storyline where Nokris was trying to resurrect his father, even though his father had banished him?
That would be
And there's
interesting.
like, and
There
it's
are
like, it's bittersweet because Oryx would never want that. He's like, no, like it's like,
hmm
he's like, oh, you're so, like, oh, you like, are you gonna thank me for saving you, father? And then Oryx is like, I can't believe you did that. You are actually an abomination. But
Oh, for sure. Do you think Oryx is strong enough that he could just like get just have his memory when he got resurrected? I don't know. That might be a dumb question, but I do wonder that if he's just so strong with the darkness that like he could somehow just remember. I know Savathun couldn't, like I said. Now that I'm saying it out loud, that's probably kind of a dumb
I
question, but I do
mean,
wonder.
Bro probably has the deep sight subclass, so I wouldn't be
Ooh.
surprised. I don't know. If
Yeah,
Oryx was
Nokris,
resurrected with a ghost, I don't know. I want to say no, but at the same time, because it's Oryx and like he documents everything, I'd say if you got Oryx to the Dreadnought, he would probably learn and remember things pretty quickly.
that would be cool. That would be some cool lore.
Um,
I do think they should probably it's probably best to keep like not bring too many characters back though.
yeah,
'Cause when that
I
when
don't
that
think they could do
becomes
Oryx right if they brought him back.
yeah, and it's just the whole thing where like when it becomes a trend to bring dead characters back, it makes death completely
Yeah, again, it waters down
meaningless
the
in the
value.
universe.
Yep, completely. I agree with that.
But yeah, I'd say yeah, Nokris I could see in turn. I will say though, I do think he has potential to do stuff in the future because there was a couple of things in Ghosts of the Deep. Like the final boss in Ghosts of the Deep was the wizard who came from like his strike, the high value target, I think, and then if I remember correctly, the let me look this up real quick. I'm pretty sure that I know that the acolyte, the hive acolyte, like hunter, you hunt throughout the dungeon when you're doing the catalyst. I know that he is like something of Nokris. Like he has
Interesting.
Nokris in like his title.
Right.
And also Archival also told me some interesting things because I was talking with him a bit. Um, a couple of them like when that night when we were doing like the Pantheon or whatever. Yeah, he told me an interesting theory, so I do think it's very much possible that Nokris might have more going on. But as of right now, yeah, he hasn't done too much on his own. So I think C tier is justified.
And I think that honestly what it just comes down to is that the dude is a minion.
Yeah, like in both
So,
instances we've seen him so far.
yeah, yep. And speaking of Nokris, we've got Zol, and I'm sorry, it's a worm I killed with a glow stick. I don't care, dude. I think the concept like of the worm gods would have been like it was so cool, and I feel like Warmind just butchered it. Like it's just a big worm that
Yeah,
you just chuck spears at, and then there you go.
yeah, I definitely stand by the sentiment that a lot of other people do that he should have been a raid boss.
Oh, for sure. I think that if Warmind, I know it had the raid lair, but I think if Warmind had like a Warmind themed raid, Zol would have been the boss for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Like where you like go deeper into like those tunnels under Mars or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that would have been way cooler.
Um, Calus bro. Oh boy. Calus. I don't know. I think.
In terms of like threat, he was a means to an end, pretty much, for the Witness.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like the Leviathan itself was pretty. Its threat was pretty substantial with the planet eating capabilities or whatever, but
Yeah.
um, I
He
don't know.
mainly used that just for making wine, though. He never used it to
True.
like. He never used it to destroy. Because that was like he was just he kind of just started out as like this dude who would just party all day because he had nothing else
Yeah.
to do. And then once he figured out about the Witness, he became the Witness.
Yep.
What would you call it? It's the Witness's pawn, I guess, is
Yeah, it's honestly another knocker
most
situation.
the most YouTube friendly word for it. In terms of like actual writing, I think he's an interesting character. I do wish in Lightfall, they played a lot more on the dynamic between him and Keitel. I do wish we saw more of
Yeah.
that because that was genuinely interesting. Like all of that, and then like the duality dungeon, and then the Cabal booklet that you got with the Lightfall Collector's Edition. All of that made me I thought they were gonna do a lot more
Yeah,
interesting
you're dead right.
stuff with his character.
It's really
But
a shame
then,
because no, you're dead right because like I thought duality really was interesting how it fleshed out Calus's character and it kind of went deeper into all of that. Because I think a big problem with Calus is that Calus was a bit too what's the word? The stereotype of like the emperor being all luxurious and laid back and all that was very much kind of to the extreme with that stereotype. And I felt like Duality did a good job of kind of grounding the character and kind of pulling back the mask. And with Lightfall, then they just completely went into the other extreme of just the goofy Saturday morning cartoon villain.
Mustache villain where he's like, "Oh, I'm going to steal the veil."
Yep. And I just think they completely butchered him in Lightfall. I think they absolutely butchered him, and they just turned him into a mustache twirling minion. And the funny thing is that in terms of threat level, I don't think he was bigger and he had pyramid tech, but like I don't know, we just kind of took him out. Like it didn't really.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty, and I think even in universe, it's implied that the Witness literally just sent him down there so that we could go down there, kill him, and then the Witness could use our ghost to make a link to the veil. Like in every sense of the word, he was relegated to a distraction in Lightfall. Like he really was, and it's a shame because he was built up to be such an interesting character, and then in Lightfall he was like, "I did an oopsie and the radial mask got destroyed."
Yep.
And then,
maybe it's like an unfair comparison, but in terms of like disciples, even Rhulk needed 6 people, Nezarec needed 6 people. Calus you could just solo him.
Yeah.
So, like, I know people have soloed Nezarec, but like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like the actual like activity.
Well, yeah, because I think canonically, all raids are 3 people, all strikes, and I would assume all dungeons.
I think raids are 6
3
though.
people. Yeah. Raids are 6.
Okay,
They're all canonically. We do it with 6 people. And then I know that what do you call it? The story. I have got like really bad brain fog right now. I'm sorry.
No, you're
the
good.
Story missions. I don't think the story missions have a cannon fire team size. I think it's just that the things got done and our Guardian was there for it.
Yep.
So I don't think that there's a cannon fire team size for story stuff.
I would agree with that. I'm thinking again between B and C. I think if Lightfall never happened, I would probably put Calus as a B, but I'm really thinking I don't know. What do you think?
There's just because there's. I'd say for the stuff they were building up, I'd say he could be a solid B.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it's such a shame because they're like, yes, Lightfall was rushed, but there was also like Calus was his own separate thing that they made for
Yeah.
that, I would assume. And so there's like so many different things. I'm not criticizing, like I'm not trying to like be like, oh, the writers suck, because they don't. They work with what they can. It's just a shame that he was executed how he was.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna put him in C just because of Lightfall.
You know what? Fair enough,
Yeah.
man. Fair enough.
I think again if Lightfall never happened, I think I'd put him in B. But it's like I can't. But you know what the funny thing? It's like pre-Lightfall and post-Lightfall, Calus are two different characters. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it is what it is. I have no idea what this thing is. What even?
That's Quria, I'm pretty sure.
Oh dear.
And I did that so many times. Boss fight was cool, and they could have done a lot more with her, but I think is it a her? Would Quria be a her or a they? I've heard a lot of people like back in the day refer to Quria as her, so I'm just used to calling it her, but I don't know if it would technically be a her.
I feel like Truth to Power has her present like as a female character. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a robot, so it's.
I mean, it is a
whatever.
robot with like goop in it, but
yeah.
I'm just gonna call Quria her because that's what I'm used to.
Yeah, it's fine. Again, for me, Quria is actually gonna be probably between a B and an A. I know that.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, I know the execution in the end was kind of disappointing for a lot of people, but
I think a lot of the stuff that came before makes up for it for sure.
Yeah.
I think because I think that like just because it's not like what Quria herself could do that made her so dangerous. It's what Savathun could do with Quria that made her so dangerous. Because like that's like Quria is what she used to control the Taken and stuff.
Do you know what? I'm actually. So, the real question I was kind of thinking of was like, does she deserve to be above Riven? And then there's one thing that kind of sealed it for me, which is that, like, Quria literally gave Oryx a run for his money, and like it was a really like tough fought war with the Vex that the Hive had, you know. And,
oh yeah, huh?
And I mean, you gotta respect a character who can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like she kind of has to be above Riven, right? Just because of that.
I personally, I think I'd say they're probably about equal.
You think they're about the same?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd say they're about the same.
Yeah. I'm gonna just put her in B because I think A, like I think other characters who are in A are probably just gonna be far above that. So yeah, I'm gonna put her in B. Fine. Galron, I really don't care. I'm probably gonna put him in trash, honestly, because at the end of the day, he was just an experiment. And,
yeah.
He was just contained to Leviathan. The dude had no will. He had no real.
Poor fella.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, into the bin bag with you.
That is good, like horror in a lot of ways, though, because he was made for that and it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I wish I did that raid. I only did that raid once ever.
I did that same. I only did that raid once, and then that one time I did it, I got Teraba.
Nice.
Yeah, I did it right before they were all getting sunset. So I was like, might as well.
Luca asks, where is the thumbnail concept art from? It is from it's from the Witch Queen art dump, and unfortunately some of it is kind of hidden. I can quickly pull the full thing up on screen for you. You just kind of have to go digging on ArtStation. It may either be under Witch Queen or Pyramid, like Destiny 2 Witch Queen or what Destiny 2 Pyramid. Kind of hard to tell. But it was part of the art dump, and it was basically part of the collection of them trying to figure out what direction they wanted to go with the new Pyramid art style. And I have it here. There you go. So it's kind of like a mix between what we have now and the kind of Kolobayev style with like these lines. And this here, like the diagonal shift, that's a telltale sign of anything Pyramid, and it's just that was especially, I think that kind of comes from the Kolobayev art. And then you can see they kind of were going towards the more gray color that we have now, as opposed to the black and gold that we did in the past. And even here you can see like the kind of the tile-ish texture that we have now, like the beginnings of that. So yeah, and then you have an interesting fish, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, no, yeah, if you want, I can put this in the server if you're there, and you can download it for yourself. But yeah.
No, I honestly I liked it when the pyramid ships were less colorful. That sounds weird, but when you really think about it, it kind of makes a lot more sense considering the philosophy of the darkness. I suppose with where the story has gone now, it's justifiable because like the precursors were all like their own people with their own culture and stuff. But I do kind of think it's makes them more alien, more scary.
Do you mind if I go to I have to read, I am bursting at the seams, but I will answer, I will basically respond to that when I come back. Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
I will
I'll be right back.
I'll hold down the fort.
Okay.
Because this kind of goes into theory territory. I think that in a lot of ways, I kind of think that Oryx was more of a disciple of the Winnower, if that makes any sense. I feel like Oryx's worldview, his philosophy, kind of leaned more into the Winnower sort of style of stuff than it did the Witness. Because I think he's back.
I am back.
Hello.
Keep going. I didn't want to interrupt you. Keep going.
Oh, I think I was done. Anyway. So you should be good.
No, I agree
was
with what you said
reading
about the whole Winnower thing with the Oryx.
Yeah.
I want to get back to you on that thing about the pyramid art style, and I think that really So there's two ways of looking at it, right? There's like the personal preference, obviously, in terms of like what you like the look of aesthetically, and then there's like the purpose. So another thing that's actually important. Well, not okay. So first of all, aesthetics. I think I just slightly prefer the older style, just because of I really like the combination of like the black and the gold. I really do like that. I just think that's really cool. But there's a lot of things with the new style as well that I like. So it's kind of but
Yeah, I
obviously
can
you're gonna
see.
have your own personal preferences. But in terms of like its purpose and whatever, um the old style, I think, so the old style, in my opinion, was to kind of, first of all, it was about having something that was dark and intimidating and powerful, but there was still that element of ancient human vibes with, say, the ziggurat and
Yeah.
other kind of thing, and even just it's really visible if you do the exo challenge missions, especially safeguard. A lot of the structures are very much reminiscent of, like, say, ancient Mesopotamian stuff. With the Witch Queen art style, it's really clear that the ancient human thing was what they were really leaning into, and I think that the purpose was that. So, like, again, with the pyramid stuff, it's like 90% of that story is in environmental storytelling, and so that means that the architecture and all of that served that purpose. And so I think they designed ultimately this new art style to be really to show people, like, and rub it in your face that, first of all, there was a race, there was a civilization, and they're very suspiciously similar to ancient human stuff. So
Oh,
it's
I
kind of,
agree.
yeah. But I think I like both. I actually really like that in the new PvP maps that we got. In some areas, they actually mix the two. I really like that.
Yes. There was a lot of interesting stuff on that map. A lot of interesting stuff.
Bro, Tasteless Uncle, by the way, thank you for being a member, man. He says he turns, about me, he turns my worm god into a monolith.
Oh, I see.
That's a first.
That's good. That's good.
It is what it is. Hey Olivia, how you doing? Um, yeah, no, I mean, okay, yeah, okay, just moving on from that, yeah. We have the walking fire extinguisher, the witness,
Oh
and
yeah.
you know what I was
Smokehead
tempted to do?
Megamind.
I was
What's up?
I was tempted I was tempted to make a video and call it "Why the Witness is a Terrible Character," and then make another video and say why the Witness is a really, like, an amazing character.
Were you gonna do that for like April Fools or
I don't
something?
know. I don't know. No, but like the thing is that you can really like, especially now after the Final Shape Collector's Edition, you can simultaneously bash the character and actually praise it, because okay, basically when they first introduced the character, regardless of what Bungie themselves knew when they did that, the character lacked a lot of depth, in my opinion, and that's something that they've been kind of
Yeah.
adding on over time. And I think now we're at the point where you can actually dig into, like, the philosophy and the ideology and all of the different, stuff like that, and you can, like, the character is actually a lot deeper now, and that provides more nuance, and it's more interesting. But at the same time, as a character and how they've been used in the game, I just don't think it's been very good at all. Especially like what we were just saying about how we probably don't even know what the Witness looks like. We've never met the Witness, and we're going to meet and kill the Witness in the same expansion, which I just don't think that that's really a good way of. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no. I really think a part of Lightfall, which if they could, if you want to go even further back, then you could even say like Beyond Light, I guess, but that the darkness was kind of different at that time, so it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to say. But I really think that at the very least, like Lightfall should have been used to develop on the Witness a lot more. Where like Calus is like, "Why are you such an edge lord, my Witness?" And then it like explains to him a lot of like its line of thinking, so that we know what's going on. And another thing I really wish, I kind of wouldn't have, I would not have minded if in Lightfall we got a boss fight with the Witness in the campaign, but we lost that one.
I agree.
Like maybe like a final mission where we find out that like Calus dies, it creates the link, and we're like, oh, we should probably go do something about that. And so we rush over to like Essence and jump on there.
Yeah.
And then we try and fight the Witness, and then
Just
in
sign
the state it's
languages,
in,
and we get force pushed all the way to Niamuna.
yeah, it flicks its wrist, and we fly to the other side of the ship. And then it hops up, and then it goes into the Pale Heart or whatever. And then we're like, oh, whoops. That's a shame.
I think at the same time, and I was tempted to add them in as like a separate thing, but I think ultimately we kind of have to do it as the one. The Witness doesn't just represent itself as a character, but it also represents the Pyramid race as a whole.
Yes.
And I think this current version of the Pyramid race that we have from, I think, Witch Queen onwards, I think that here's the issue. Like, Final Shapes Collector's Edition obviously gave us a lot more information about how powerful they were, the ideological kind of evolution that they went through, and all of that. But really, the one thing that kind of always comes to my mind is they began doing all this because they were bored. They had a paradise, and they basically got bored with it. And I know that there's, I think they were manipulated. And I think the key word for this entire thing is pride and hubris. But I don't know. I think, honestly, so I feel like, so I'm going to put the Witness in A, and I'm going to tell you why. The reason why I'm going to put it in the A is because in terms of a threat, we don't have a bigger threat at the moment, right? Second of all, the character is at the point right now where it does have a lot of depth, and you can actually dig deeply into it, and I think there's a lot of different things that you can appreciate about the character now. The negatives, though. The character was really lacking in that depth until very recently, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that we should have had like a full like lore book about the Witness and Witch Queen or anything like that. I really think that there was no reason why we couldn't have learned more about the Witness through Lightfall, or especially Lightfall seasons, really. And I think that holds it back. I think at the same time, going into the Pyramid race, like, I feel like I understand the themes and the kind of story of the Pyramid race, because that's been like my main thing. And like, especially like when you look into the, like, I think the whole ancient human link especially is so cool, and I love how they've been like foreshadowing that and like putting different things in here and there. But most people like don't know about that at all, and for the longest while people didn't even think there was a race, right? And I know they chose to do it through environmental storytelling, and I love that, because that's just something that I found out that I'm naturally interested in. But a lot of people miss that. Most people miss that, and I think that again takes away from the ultimate value of the villain. And yeah, no, I'm gonna put it in A. And that's me being like unbiased, because if I'm really being like kind of I'm probably gonna put the dude in like B or something, just because I don't like him. But I think like, to be fair, I do think the character's an A, but I think there's just a few negative things that are holding it back from being like top tier. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put it A tier.
I'd say that's fair.
No, I'm only joking. I'm putting it in trash.
I'd say A is a good place to keep him. If the witness is executed well in final shape, you could probably move him up to like the top tier, and then if they execute him horribly and final shape is lame doo-doo cheeks, then you can put him in trash.
I think that for the witness to be in like the top tier, I think what needs to happen in the final shape is, I think that we need to see much more of the witness's actual character, like its personality, its emotions and stuff like that, which I think we will. But in my opinion, I think the big thing at this point is really the race. And like, again, this is a being that represents an entire race, and yet we know, well, you know, the community knows very little, if anything, about them for the most part. Like, I mean, people call them the precursors, but like, is that ever actually said? I feel like Bife said it in his video, and now that's just kind of like what we're calling them, right?
It's not. Yeah, no, it's not. They're never called like I don't think they're ever explicitly called the precursors or anything. That's just like a term that people came up with that just rolls off the tongue, like it's easier to say if you're like talking fast or something.
If you want to be really like whatever about it, I think a more accurate title, which is from the pyramid ship themed seal in Arrivals, would be Forerunner.
Yeah,
You know?
I was just thinking that makes a lot of sense for multiple reasons.
Can you imagine we get the Forerunners? So funny, dude.
Forerunners, and then the Forerunners again. Forerunners in matte black and Forerunners in chrome.
Ugh.
You got
true.
the two of them.
Yeah. Oh, but could you imagine if they did a twist where it's like some of the pyramid race actually became the Vex, and then you have Forerunner Vex? Precursor. Never mind. Sorry. Whatever. I forgot. I got Precursor mixed with the Forerunner, but anyway.
I think that would be interesting. As of right now, I do not know how I feel about the whole glass mines thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see. As of right now, I don't want to say for certain that they created the Vex. You could say they maybe took control of some of them, sure, because there's not really anything else that like the glass mines could really be in my mind. I think it's like, so yeah, no, I don't think that they created them. I think that it's something similar, because I know Calus in Season of Opulence, he did the same thing. He took control of a sect of Vex, if I remember correctly. So I would assume that the precursors would be more than capable enough to do the same thing.
Yep, I would agree. Yeah, I don't think there's, to be honest, it's one of those things where, like when Witch Queen came out and they ended up putting the witness into the story of the Books of Sorrow, I was like, did you really need to do that? Like really? When I read the Final Shape Collector's Edition lore and you had the thing about the Vex, I was kind of like, did you really need to do that? Like, I feel like you've kind of muddied the waters a bit, like, but we'll see. I feel like Final Shape's gonna, here's the thing that I keep thinking about, and I think everybody needs to remember. The Final Shape Collector's Edition lore is written and designed to be read like with the launch of the Final Shape, or like just after the launch of the Final Shape. And I think that when we play the Final Shape, it's probably going to add a lot of context to that lore. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if that whole Pyramid Vex connection gets touched on in the actual Final Shape.
I'm sure it will. Yeah. Did it show any soul divisive Vex in the Pale Heart? I know every other pyramid aligned enemy has been in there. I don't remember if they've shown soul divisive. I don't think they have. Probably not. Speaking of which, our next
is this the dude from that
that's the Undying Mind.
Oh, it's the Undying Mind.
Undying Mind. My brother in the light. We killed all of them.
Dude, I saw a really funny thing on Twitter. Somebody's like, my brother in Ayat.
In Ayat. Oh man.
I don't know. I don't really care about this. If this is the Undying Mind, honestly, if it's the Undying Mind or that it's not the Undying Mind in the I can't remember what the bow is called, but you know, the strand bow in that mission. It's not the same mind, right?
I don't think so.
Well, either
I
way,
I
I
do
don't know.
not think so. No. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, we dealt with that pretty easily.
I
I'd say
mean,
we just built like a portal.
if it's the Undying Mind, it sure dies a lot. So I don't.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. We killed all of them. We did. I don't think there's any more left. You never
um,
know with the Vex, I suppose, though.
yep, yep. I honestly, I'm just gonna put it in trash. I don't care. I really don't. Rasputin. Now, I actually respect the fact that Rasputin is in a villain tier list. I actually do respect that
That is interesting. He has
because
been
yeah.
a dick a few times.
Okay, well, in my opinion, the Iron Lord situation straight up makes him a villain, and also the collapse, how that went down. Like, the dude, the dude was created to protect and serve humanity, and not only did it basically allow the old humanity to die, but it severely crippled our humanity in the Destiny universe by seeing the Iron Lords and the Iron Wolves destroyed. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, if that didn't happen, I could potentially see the Red War going a lot differently.
that's true. That's very true.
Um, and I mean, like, SIVA wasn't even really corrupted. Like, he made SIVA to be what it was in the end, right? Like, it was, so
Yeah, yeah, he gave it the I think what it was he gave them the protocol. I think it was replicate,
yeah,
eliminate, immunize initially, and then the SIVA like further evolved, and then it like
yeah,
turned into consume, enhance, replicate. So he basically created this butterfly effect
yeah,
where
yeah,
it's just this uncontrollable infection now.
yep, yep. Um, yeah. So Rasputin, like, is in my opinion, 100% a villain, and I don't like when it comes to characters, like, I do not forget small details. I mean, it's not even a small detail, but people just kind of like wash over it or whatever. Like, for example, like, I despise Anna Bray purely because she deserted from Twilight Gap. Now, they didn't have to put that in the lore, but they did, and it was for a very
Mhm.
selfish reason as well. And like,
Yeah.
I don't forget that, and it's like, yeah, but like, that's a really bad thing. And so with Rasputin, what happened with the collapse and all that, like, I get it, right? He needed to let everybody die to survive, but still, that is a betrayal. And honestly, there is no justification for what happened with the Iron Lords. Like, you're telling me it was all because he just wanted Felwinter? Like, it's just such a waste, and and even Rasputin is, I guess, uh, regretful over it. So there's not really any justification for it at all. Um, at the same time, as a character, Rasputin has constantly just failed. Like, I don't know how many times we empower Rasputin and then fails. The only time Rasputin has ever succeeded is probably the Almighty. That's about it. Um,
Yeah, because he couldn't do anything when the Pyramid Fleet and the Darkness invaded that first time,
yeah,
and then when we empowered him up and he they came back, they just sort of DDoSed him, and he couldn't do
yep,
anything about it.
yep. Cheeky blue
Um,
screen.
and then we brought him back again, and then it was like, oh well, we can't fight Zivu Wrath by normal means, so we have to do like this weird Steven Universe shit
Oh,
and
let's try to
not
fight the
fight.
God of War with the War Mind.
Something I really think about with that is would it matter if fighting Xivu Arath is an act of war if you fought her directly? That's something I'm genuinely curious about. Because I really feel like if she
Yeah.
was that much of a threat, they could have just got us and then 5 other dudes to just go mollywop her in like one raid. I don't know though.
It's kind of tough because I feel like through the sword logic, if you are the better fighter, you should win. But like, would it be okay? Are you into Star Wars at all?
Yes,
Okay,
very.
okay. So you know Mace Windu, obviously.
Uh-huh.
So you know so you know like how he. Now people are kind of debating about this, but in my opinion, he did beat Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith, and you know how like do you know how his whole thing works, where he can basically like take the dark side
Yes. Yeah, he
away?
like his fighting it's like his like fighting style.
Yeah,
He
Vapod.
can reflect their like darkness back at
Yeah,
them
yeah.
almost.
So like the way, and if you watch the fight between Palpatine and Mace Windu, it's actually visually kind of there where Palpatine starts off and he's like really fast and really strong, and as the fight gets on and on and on, he slows down and becomes weaker.
Hmm.
And I kind of see it like Mace was like a battery, just like draining him of his power. My point just is like, if we 1v1 Xivu, would it kind of be a similar situation where she fed off of the violence and we got weaker and weaker and weaker, or would it be an actual fair fight? I don't know.
Um, I don't think, at least in the state she was in at the time, I don't think we would be able to kill her on our own. I think it would have to be a full raid team. But that's true though, is like, I do think that that's like an interesting point. I don't think she would drain our power. I would assume that it would make her get stronger and stronger until eventually she would just be able to overpower us pretty easily. I don't know,
Do you remember how
though.
Oryx killed her? Because he killed both of
Um,
his sisters before he faced Akka.
she was just like, kill me and use your energy, and he was like, okay, and he
Oh,
just
true. Yeah.
cut her down.
Okay.
It was Savathun who tried to trick him, but he kind of knew what she was doing, and he
Yeah.
cut her head off.
Yeah. Um. Anyway, we got a bit sidetracked from Rasputin. I'm gonna put him in B as a villain. I don't
Fair
think
enough.
it's whatever. I mean,
He's definitely done messed up stuff.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Um.
I
This
mean,
is
honestly, you know what? Oh, go on.
sorry. This is Axis, right?
Yes.
I didn't see him. I
that next
accidentally
one is
added him
Axis.
again. So I'm just gonna put all of this as SIVA. Just SIVA.
I'd say yeah, you could probably bunch Axis into SIVA as a whole.
But you
So
were saying something?
honestly, oh yeah, I was gonna say it would have been it's a bit of a tangent, but I still think it'd be kind of interesting to bring up. I think it would be interesting, and it could have even linked back with like the Bungie games even further if like the reason that Rasputin was such like a dick was that he was like going rampant or something. That would
Yeah.
be interesting. And that could line up with like the whole thing where like there was originally those connections when it was not originally Rasputin, when it was originally Charlemagne and the Exo, most likely Joyus. That's what I.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I will make this prediction right now. If Rasputin gets resurrected as a guardian, I don't know if they're gonna do that too much. I really don't. But
No.
if he does, he'd be named Joyus. That would be his guardian name.
That'd be so
I
cool.
guarantee you. Because that would make a lot of, because they essentially were able to use Uldren's death to turn him back into the original vision of Crow from the Staten Cut in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could totally see them doing something similar with Rasputin if they
honestly.
wanted to make him a guardian.
Bro,
I
can
don't
you
know. I don't want
imagine-
them to bring everyone back though. Go
Can you
on.
imagine Guardian Joyus with like a big sword?
That would
So
be rad.
cool.
Oh man, like a big like guts like Dragon Slayer sword.
Yeah, or even like I don't know, like whatever like that kind of sword is, like that Joyus. What was it called? Because like wasn't there no, I'm whiffing now. Like Durandal or something like that. Wasn't that a sword or something? Check
I
it.
believe so. I believe Durandal. Durandal was a sword, and then Cortana was a sword. That's something interesting. Like she's called Cortana, but I'm pretty sure in like the original story, they changed it to like, or like in the original story, it was Cortana with a U, but they changed it to an O.
Oh yeah,
Correct
Joyce
me
is
if
a
I'm
sword as
wrong.
well.
Yeah. Because that's like the thing that's interesting is they're all of like the AIs with like all of the important AIs throughout all the Bungie games are named after swords of famous heroes.
Yep. Yeah, that'd be really cool though. Get like a sword like that. But to get back on track,
Yes.
SIVA. You know what? I'm actually tempted to put. Okay, hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
SIVA actually has the ability to straight up like terraform planets and completely like consume them. If SIVA was
true.
uncontained and it was just allowed to do its thing, it would probably take over the whole solar system and even beyond. And the fact that it was able to beat the Iron Lords is really a big deal because they were like some of the most powerful guardians we had.
That's a good point, actually.
And what's more is that it can defeat somebody, but then possess them. And we saw that again with the Iron Lords. Now, granted, like they were just kind of like ooh, zombie dudes, but like what's to say that it wouldn't be able to learn how to like basically replicate a person's ability. You know what I mean? And then in how they did it, I think the logic of what SIVA comes from and why it is the way it is, I think all of that was explained well and it makes sense. I think that it's cool in terms of its design and all that, and I think like Rise of Iron is one of my favorite expansions ever, and I think that I'm actually thinking I might just put SIVA in A. Honestly.
Yeah, fair enough.
And again,
I mean,
this
it was
like
strong
any of
enough
the
to
specific
warrant a raid
characters,
boss.
like Vozic or Axis. I don't really, because ultimately they were minions of the SIVA, right? They were minions of SIVA.
Yeah,
SIVA
pretty
was...
much. They were just like regular, like fallen archons. Like without the SIVA, they probably honestly wouldn't have even been much more of a threat than like the dude we fought in the second mission in Destiny 1, really.
Now, a question
was an archon.
Would Rasputin still be able to shut it down? Or had he lost control of it? That's what I don't know. But
I'm
considering
pretty sure
how he
lost
always fails,
control.
I wouldn't be surprised if even if he thought he was able to control it, he's like, oh, don't worry, guys, you just need to power me up again and then I can control it. We power him up. Oh, no, I got shut down. Oh, no. Yeah, so...
I would assume with the way SIVA behaves, I wouldn't be surprised if it was almost something like... It's just like where when you get into like your instincts, you kind of lose control. Like how like an alligator, when like an alligator starts like eating, or like a crocodile, they go into like a feeding frenzy where they just are uncontrollably munching on whatever it is they're munching on. So I imagine like if you just let SIVA just run rampant, it would get to a point where you just couldn't stop it, I imagine.
And
I don't know for certain though.
And like we were able to like contain it, right? Like I understand like that's the thing. Like for example, it was, let me think. It was like it's gonna be like way more because I think some people might be like, dude, why are you putting SIVA in the same category as the Witness, right? Because like the Witness is far more powerful and it's gonna be far harder to defeat the Witness than it was to defeat SIVA. But again, it's like a mixture of I think its design, how like from concept to execution, the threat it did present to us, and at the same time, I know that they kind of like bring it up like in like a little line here and there, and then they just don't do anything with it. But like, it's kind of implied that SIVA is elsewhere, so it can easily come back again.
It's around, but it's dormant, I believe, if I remember correctly. Like the rampant, like evil SIVA, we kind of got under control in Rise of Iron because we destroyed the replication complex, and then we kind of cleared the rest of it out in Wrath of the Machine, from my understanding. And then after that, it's just been dormant stuff. Like there's some dormant on like Exodus Black, for example, which is remnants of what would have been something really cool
Yeah.
that they ended up not doing.
And then
But that's a
Neomuna
topic
has
for
it as
another
well.
day. Oh yeah, they have like a weird like advanced version.
And then
They got like
Perfected
the
has it.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
And all the
Right.
SIVA ornaments that they put in Eververse has it.
Would that even count? I think I don't know.
I don't think so, but it's
Probably not. Probably not. Yeah.
But that's why I'm putting SIVA in A. Like I'm not a SIVA fanboy. I never really understood a lot of people's obsession with it, but I just think again like all those different aspects, I think it was just done really well, and I think that's really why, even if they say did present like a solid threat, just their concept and the execution, it just wasn't really done well. And in my opinion, I just think SIVA was done very cleanly, and that really bumps it above a lot of the others, just for me. So.
And I do also think you kind of have to separate paracausal from causal, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like the witness is probably like the height of like paracausal threats that we.
If we were doing power level, it'd be completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's definitely like a thing. Like SIVA's up there. I would say though that the most dangerous causal, like the peak of like causal power is probably Atheon, who is later on this list. So I'll save it.
I mean, I would put Atheon and Panoptes probably up there, and Quria, I put that up higher as well if we're doing power level. I feel like Zol.
Black Heart.
That's the Black Heart, yeah. It's like the concept of the Black Heart. Zol technically should be way higher, but just again the way it was implemented,
executed was awful.
Yeah. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
Black Heart, kind of a gimmick. They keep bringing it up and doing stuff with it.
I'd say the Black Heart's probably B tier. Yes, it was an aspect of like darkness, sort of, but at least in the story that we have now, it's like an imperfect.
Yeah.
It's like an imperfect thing.
It's like it's an attempt to replicate the veil.
Yeah, it's the veil from Wish.
Which doesn't even really make sense, because the veil itself is like all like the consciousness and stuff like that. So why would it's just goofy, dude. Yeah.
They just wanted to make it make sense in the new story. I think that's all it was.
Honestly, I think I might just put it in C tier because it's just a I don't know. It's just yeah.
And even in terms of like threat, it just kind of summoned 3 bosses and then farted away and died.
It apparently did stop the Traveler from being able to really heal or anything like that, but it didn't kill it. And yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. Also, actually, and this is really getting wishy-washy, but our Guardian in D1, who honestly, if you really want to get like deep into it, by the time you got to that final story mission, you probably didn't even have one subclass fully unlocked, like fully like all.
Oh, that's true.
And you probably didn't really have any exotics, and you were like a low power level Guardian, all things considered, and even we were able to defeat that. So, I know this is getting like really silly with it, but
that is like a thing to consider, I suppose. Because we didn't really, I feel like I would assume we were kind of considered an average Guardian until we beat Atheon, and then they were like, oh, this guy kind of knows what he's doing, and then we beat Crota, and they were like, whoa, okay, dude, calm down. Calm down.
Yep. So I'm gonna put it in C. It's kind of just whatever. This is what's your name? Oh, bro.
That's Omnigul?
Omnigul, yes.
That looks like Omnigul, yeah.
The wizard.
She just kind of screamed loud and died.
Honestly, it kind of triggered me how they just kind of copied and pasted her scream to like other wizards, like wizard bosses.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm gonna put her in C because she is just a minion, but she's still cool. I think her writing is cool with Eris's original fire team.
Oh yeah.
But in terms of like power level, I can't really put her in B. I don't know. Like, Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to calculate because like the something that's like something that's kind of threatening to like the average guardian is not nearly as threatening to a player
I'll give you a good
character.
example. She isn't on this list, but if I had the Death Singer, Ear I would put Ear in. Oh no, is that her there? No, that's Dolan Carter. I would put Ear in B, and then I'd have Omnigul in C. Because
Fair enough.
I think the Death Singer like was probably more of a
Threat?
I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
I don't, cause I think the thing about the death song is it's like weird hive magic, so it doesn't really matter how strong you are. If you hear it, you die.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really
Yeah, it's kind of like
can't
that
really
paracausal, like the rules don't matter type thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, I am gonna put Omnigul probably C. I don't think she's a bad character by any means, but like she is like a minion, and
Yeah. I don't even remember her having much of a character. Is she in like a lot of Grimoire or something?
the only real significance is just that she was there when Eris's original fire team died in Hellmouth,
I see.
so she had like a big grudge against
Okay.
her.
Ah, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's
Uh,
been a minute.
we have the World Eater, and literally killed the dude in
He
like the
was a
trash compactor, so I think he deserves to
yeah,
stay in the trash.
he was like a battery pretty much, I think, for like
He was like clogging the
the
drain pretty much. And we
yeah,
just
yeah,
had to
yeah,
clear him
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He had to call the plumber. Calus had to call the plumber
Uh,
to unclog it.
is this Skolas? Or that
That
no, that's Skolas. No, who's this?
that that's not the captain from Grasp of Avarice, is it?
Oh, I think it is. I recognize the lighting.
Well, he's just a random captain. I don't know if we could really do much. Because it's really hard to say with Grasp
It's all a
because
meme.
Grasp is mostly, yeah, it's just like weird, goofy shit, and it's kind of hard to, like, there's not really much significance to it, really, other than like, oh, look at that. It's like the weapon from that one other game that I like. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
nah, it's just kind of a meme at that point. Like it's a bit.
like it. The weird crystals might be related to the nine, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Like, am I gonna
I
really
do
put
think it
this dude on the same level as Panoptes or Nokris? Even
for
Calus,
real.
you know.
Yeah.
We have the DCV.
Ascendant tier.
Not even a question. This, in my opinion, very nearly killed the game.
For sure. Ooh.
Yeah, it was
I don't
not good.
I don't know, there's because there were so many better ways to go about that, and we have a perfect example with the Master Chief Collection. That's a big game, but you can choose what to install. I think that's how they should have done it. Is like, oh, you want to play the Red War, you can install the campaign and you got it. But if you're like, oh, I'm never gonna play this again, you can just take it off out of the game so that you don't, if you're not gonna touch any of that content, and then you're fine. Like, it saves like storage space on your PC or
Well,
whatever.
I remember, some streamers came out and they said that their NDAs had ended, and that Bungie basically told them that the main reason for the DCV was the PS4 hard drive size and limitations.
Oh, it was old gen. It was literally old gen that caused that.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
It's nothing against old gen,
It makes sense though.
but I mean, yeah,
Um,
like if you get down to it.
I think that no, I mean we're just gonna lump the two together, I guess. But like sunsetting actually was, like I think if sunsetting didn't happen, and the DCV happened, it would have been a lot better. But
For sure.
I don't know. To be fair though, that being said, one thing about sunsetting that kinda worked for them is that, let's imagine sunsetting didn't happen, and so people are
Mhm.
going into Beyond Light with stuff from Black Armory, and just take that as an example, right? But the Black Armor stuff is gone. For new players, they're with all these other all these other people who have like full vaults of gear that they cannot get because the stuff that you got it from is gone.
That's very fair.
But that's kind of a Bungie problem, not a me problem.
Yeah.
Also, people.
I didn't keep.
Oh, sorry, keep on.
Go on.
No.
Oh, I was one of the people who deleted all that sunset stuff. By the way. Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna need this. Godrel Austringer at sunset. Delete.
No.
I needed the shards, unfortunately, or the what are the enhancement cores? That's what they're called now.
My vault is full of ancient relics from the past. Like that. I'm one of those people who's like constantly 599.
Fair enough, man. I don't think I even have like 3 pages of my vault filled up. I just don't. If a weapon is not worth using, I'm not gonna keep it most of the time.
I hold on to things for
how I
sentimental
operate.
value.
That's fair.
But
it's a shame because like that old Black Armory stuff, I love
True.
the aesthetic of that. Love that aesthetic.
Me too, man. Me too. Two people said some really interesting things in the chat. So first of all, I think who said this? Yes, Gabriel says, I think he might be right. So my PC's taking off. One second. My PC is. It sounds like it's gonna lift off the ground from a second. And get rid of this. Basically, he said that the Death Singer song is like a corrupted version of like the Gardener song. I don't know if that's there was a group. What were they called? Was it the Dawn Chorus or something like that? It was
the Dawn Chorus.
It was like a chant. The Dawn Chant? Dawn Chant, was it? Dawn Chant?
I do not remember. I'm sorry. A lot of older stuff. I need I need a lot of refreshes on. Because before all of the unveiling sort of stuff came around, I was kind of the Hive was my thing. I was kind of their lore is the stuff I mainly knew a lot about.
Was it the Dawn Choir? But Gabriel, you are right. But it was. I need to go digging more into that. It wasn't the actual Gardener, but it's linked to the light. If somebody does find that, let me know. Turn, fix this. I should fix it. Old lore, yeah. And then the second thing was that Argos, the World Eater thing, the full name was actually Planetary Core. So
that's right.
Technically, Argos was powerful enough, Vex mind, to be like the actual core of the planet. So I'm gonna. But do I? No, fine. I'll put it in C. I'm just gonna put it in C, just because it.
Fair enough.
You know. Because I mean, like Panoptes was kind of like the core of Mercury, kind of. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. When it says planetary core, that kind of, because like Nessus is pretty much at this point it's nearly like a fully Vex converted planet, I think it's safe to say. So it being the planetary core, I think that literally means that the Leviathan ate its way all the way into the planet's core, and then it swallowed Argos, and it just kind of got stuck in there. So I kind of imagine that maybe its purpose, like its function, was maybe to just maintain the Vex systems throughout the planet or something. That's just like a spitballing guess, though.
Well, I also
know
see it because like
certain.
all of the Vex planets are basically like giant computers. So
yeah,
I would assume that Argos would be the one to run that specific computer.
He's the Discord admin. Like, oh, you didn't shoot my element Vex cubes in the right order, banned. And then your fire team wipes.
So yeah, I'm gonna just leave it in C. I don't really care, and I think the difference between C and trash is very small anyway. Gaul, however, I'm actually gonna put Gaul as an A tier villain.
Fair enough, man. He did what most of the other villains have not been able to do.
Honestly,
Granted, he did get help from one of the 9, but still, kind of impressive to like beat an opponent such as the Guardians, at least initially.
yeah, and then he became a being of pure light at the end, and
Yeah, that's true. I mean, was it like, I don't know, because from what I remember, it's been a while, but from what I remember, the light he used, I think, was sort of tainted because it was taken, not given. And so it wasn't like as potent as our light or something like that.
They don't really. No, wait. Are you talking about after he dies or when we fight him?
Both.
Well,
I'd say
when
both.
when
I don't
we
know about
fought him,
after he dies.
when we fought him, it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. But when he died and he was reborn as that light god being, like, I think his power level was genuinely like off the charts.
You're probably right. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say because he was around for maybe like 20 seconds,
Yeah,
and then the
but there's
Traveler
never
was.
been anything like that though, ever. Like, who
That's
knows?
true. It's very true.
Like, I don't think you could beat the Witness necessarily. If the Traveler's beam can't kill the Witness, I don't think God Gaul could kill the Witness. But like,
I don't. That's kind of what's weird about the light is I think that in its very basic form, I don't think that like something purely of light has the nature to like destroy, really,
yeah,
because we see that with the like at the like with the Traveler at the beginning of Lightfall, where it shoots that beam at Essence in like a desperate attempt to push back the Witness, and it doesn't work. It just terraforms the pyramid.
yep. I mean, to
So
be
it
fair,
can't
it
really.
did. It would have destroyed the pyramid because it was cutting through it, but it was
I
like,
mean, yeah, I suppose, but like it didn't really. It couldn't really do much to the Witness directly.
no. And I feel like, you know what, I felt like they literally designed the Witness, like the race. They designed the Witness to be able to tank. Like, that was specifically what the Witness was made for, to be able to tank something
That's
like that.
possible, yeah. I mean, like if a big scary Destiny boss can like take as many bullets as they do, I'm sure that the Witness could survive a big beam like that. That's very true.
And I actually think that's why they became the Witness ultimately. It wasn't just, I don't think it was just power level. I really think that it was, if they combined all of their strength, they would be able to become a tank. Because, like, I think if their race stayed the way they were and they were all in consensus, yada 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 yada, like, they have access to pyramid tech and the quote unquote gardener's tools and all that. I think they would have been almost like, I would say maybe like 60% to 70% as powerful as what the Witness can do. But when they're the Witness, they literally cannot be killed. And they have all that combined darkness power, and at the same time, there's literally no room for dissent. Because who knows, maybe, you know, if it took like a 200,000 years, just like off the top of my head, to get the final shape, maybe in that time there would be dissent and people would split, and then there'd be more generations born who would maybe have different opinions. And so the Witness was just like a very clean way of, like a surefire way of getting what they wanted.
Yeah, and I think the biggest part of it was that what they wanted to was like just a part of their hubris. They wanted to turn themselves into a godlike being, and since consciousness is the power of the darkness, multiple consciousnesses in one being would be unbelievably powerful.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
But no, I just think, like, going back to Gaul again, I think even though nowhere near as powerful as the Witness. I think the way he was written, I think the way he was executed. The one thing about Gaul, and this is honestly, I think, what's keeping him from Ascendant, is actually, he's like, no, I'm not going to take the light. And then he's like, no, I will take the light. That was just a really dumb. And also,
he's not consistent.
It's always frustrating when, and somebody mentioned this in the chat, it's always frustrating when a villain very clearly can just win, and they choose not to, and then they lose.
Fair enough.
Like, honestly, if I was Gaul, I would have taken the light, like, very soon after taking the city, would have left the system, and just blown up the sun with the Almighty, and call it a day.
Yeah, fair enough, but I guess he had his things he wanted to do. Unfortunately for him, because he's dead now.
Hit the bucket list.
I will send my forces to Io to walk around until they get killed. And then I will send them to Nessus to do the same thing.
Yep. But overall, no, I think he was a great character. I think he's underrated. And I think the Red War as a whole is underrated.
Yeah, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say it was. I definitely think in terms of fun factor, it's up there for sure. But I do think that there's other, like, story beats that do work in it.
Yeah, so I'm happy putting him in A, obviously. And obviously, I think I'm happy putting him in A, honestly. I think this is Dolan Karu. I'm pretty sure this is Dolan Karu.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not too fussed about her. She's just serving her mom, you know.
Yeah.
Listen, if I can one-hit her with a golden gun, such a Nighthawk, do I really care?
Fair enough. I'd say though the one problem with her is the time loop.
Yeah, I'm gonna put her in
But
C.
other than
I don't
that,
think she's
she's
trash.
Yeah, no.
She hasn't done anything that offends me. So I'd like, nah, she's fine. That's whatever. This is, what is this? This is.
I was looking at that earlier. I'm pretty sure that's literally just the boss in 0 Hour, which is just a captain, just a normal captain.
Oh,
I don't know why.
That's the final boss of 0 Hour.
Yeah. That's what I said.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I don't care.
Yeah, no, you can just put him in the bottom. Like he was literally just like just a regular captain who Eramis sent.
Savathun is going to be very interesting.
Ooh. I do think that she, at least like from what we have now, I do think she has been, I think she's had the best building up of any villain we've really had so far.
Yeah.
Like she's been behind the scenes for most of Destiny 2. You could even argue a little bit of Destiny 1, because if you remember the description for the Dreadfang, that Taken sword, it definitely seemed like she was kind of betting on Oryx's death, because she was like the description of that sword was kingly brother, I thank you for the gift of your failure. The sword logic commands the pinnacle. So I definitely think that she even had plans like since back then, especially because the update we got that from, it was Malak who was her son, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly.
Really?
Yeah. Malak, the Pride of Oryx, he was Oryx's nephew, and he was taken by Oryx. Yeah, that was like a whole thing where he actually took her, and then he purposely pissed Savathun off by calling him the Pride of Oryx, because I guess in Hive language, pride and poison means the same thing, which doesn't make... That is kind of weird in my opinion, but it works. It's fine.
The one thing I really do appreciate though about her is so from Vanilla D2 to Witch Queen is the consistent desire to lose the worm.
Yes.
And I think that I really like it, just from a writing standpoint. I do appreciate. Like, listen, I am not a Savathun fanboy. I actually don't. I feel like this is okay. This is just my opinion. This is how I look at it. I think that this might be controversial, but I think that so I think when you have, you know, writers coming and going, and you have like really, really big, massive scale concepts, like the darkness, the pyramids, the gardener, the winnower, stuff like that, it can feel probably a bit kind of constricting trying to make stuff, but also fitting in the bounds of the parameter set by like the past and, you know, previous teams and whatever. And I think that with, so for example, I think the Witness was kind of an attempt to like do their own thing, but kind of stick with the, but it was, it's kind of whatever. I think Savathun has really given them the most amount of creative freedom, and I think they've taken the most creative freedom with her. So for example, her wanting to lose her worm, that's a consistent thing that goes back to the beginning of D2, but it isn't anything that's really constricting, and you can keep that and then do a lot with it. And I think that when they began working on Savathun for Witch Queen and also putting her into other things, I think that one of the reasons why she's become such a prominent character is because I think she's probably one of their favorites, and I think that reason is honestly because they can, how do I say this? She's one of the easiest big characters for them to work with because she isn't tied down to a lot of these massive scale concepts that go back 10 years.
Yeah. She's
and,
very,
yeah.
who she is now is very much a newer idea, for sure.
Yes.
And I think it works. Because honestly, I even think, I would even go, this is probably a bit for some people, but I would go as far as to say Savathun's probably one of like the best written villain, like one of the best written villains in gaming, period. Like honestly, that's because like she was involved in so much stuff. She did so many things behind the scenes, and in a lot of ways, like Witch Queen, I was really excited for Witch Queen just because of how they executed her character and like how she was presented in the world. Like the only other character I can think of that I was like, I am so excited to just kick your ass. Like the only character I really get that from other than like Savathun is probably Handsome Jack from Borderlands.
Wow.
Which are two entirely different characters, but like they definitely give off that like vibe.
So I know Archival really doesn't like her because of the fact that so this is another thing that I have an issue with when it comes to her, is that I feel like in a lot of ways they just don't want her to be a villain. And I think she kind of had to start off as a villain in Witch Queen because of the past. I would not be surprised if in the end she does become an ally, because they've painted her now as she started off as like a pure villain. Now she's kind of like an anti-hero. She's kind of like a morally gray, kind of out for herself type of thing. She'll help you 1 minute and then turn on you the next. And honestly, I can see them eventually making her like just a straight up ally. But I know that Archival really doesn't like the fact that they have kind of moved away from, like, let's be honest, the Hive did terrible things. They've genocided so many different species, and Savathun is completely complicit and involved in all of that. And here's the thing, and I actually brought this up in a conversation with Archival. I said, yes, but she died and is like not really the same person anymore. And he's like, yes, but he said that the light gives us all a second chance. She didn't take it. She chose to keep her old identity. she
That's a really
is
good
still
point.
Savathun. And so
That was
yeah.
something. Go on,
No, no,
go
no. I'm
on.
just
I'm
saying.
sorry.
No, no, you're good. I'm just saying. Like, so it's like, do you know what it's like if Crow was born or whatever, and he's like, no, I'm still Aldrin. I'm still the
Ooh.
prince, and
Uh,
he's like, he wants to lean into that identity, and he's like, yeah, I killed Kate. I don't really care. Whatever. Like, yeah, you killed me, but I'm back. you know.
oh man.
It's kind of like if
Yeah,
that
I
happened.
don't. That is one thing that I mean. I guess it's still kind of related to story. It's very much related to what you just brought up. That was kind of something that really frustrated me for a while when like Witch Queen first came out, where so many people were like, "Oh, it's a gray area now. We're kind of like the bad guy fighting against Savathun." When the first thing she did when she got the light was send out Lucent Hive to slaughter guardians and experiment on them.
Mm,
In no sense was she a good guy in that
no.
expansion, and I don't
Yeah.
care what, like, no one can really convince me otherwise.
Taking the traveler as well, or the traveler left willingly, but you know what I mean. It's
Yeah, but like the thing is, like, she could have told us, like, she could have, if she really wanted to help
yeah,
us, like, she could have explained herself, but because it's in her nature to be a liar and a manipulator, she didn't. She chose not to.
yeah. And I think you can maybe try and play the devil's advocate and be like, oh, but she didn't have her memories. I think even when she got her memories, she could have, you know, yeah. No, I think I still look at her as a villain, and I don't really like the kind of, oh, but she's, she's tragic and she had good reasons or whatever. I think you can have that, but still have her as a villain. And at the moment they haven't properly crossed that line. Like, I'll give you an example. They've 100% done that with Eramis, in my opinion. Eramis started off as a villain, and now, oh, well, she's a sympathetic, kind of outcast, and yeah, I would have shadow dived her easily when she was frozen. I wish they let me. Was it Sweatcicle or whatever? Who was like, bro, I wish they let me cut off her head. Like, I was like,
Oh
whoa.
man, I'll get into my opinions on Aramis when we get to
Yeah,
her, because I definitely have some opinions
but
on her.
that's like the trajectory, right? So like, for example, she starts off as a pure villain, and then I remember I was doing season of the, was it Seraph or something, and then Mara was like giving her like a therapy session, like, oh, like, how do you feel and all
Oh
whatever.
yeah, I remember
And I'm
that.
like, dude, why? First of all, why Mara of all characters? And you're doing
That
this to
is
Eramis,
that is
who's actively trying to blow up the travel. Like, what? So,
a good point.
yeah, like, that's the direction that Savathun is like on the brink of going down, and I don't want that to happen. But we'll see. And then I think the worst thing about Savathun for me is the collapse. She should not have been at. If I had it my way, she should not have been at the collapse. And
Yeah, for sure. I
she
think that's weird.
her stealing the veil, and this is, and dude, I made that video, and it just doesn't. I don't think people will get it. It's like Savathun was at the collapse. That's bad enough. Okay, but when she stole, so let me put it this: Witch Queen comes out. They say that she was at the collapse, and that she was the reason why the witness left. That's already a big red flag. But what's the reasoning?
Hmm.
They say, "Oh, well, she put up illusions and deceptions, and that's why." And you're like, "That's kind of goofy, okay, but like, what does that mean for like the traveler sacrifice and all that?" And then the worm makes a very clear point, and this is the writers making sure that they don't do an oopsie, and they make the worm say, "She was a reason we survived, not the reason," right? And people like to bring up this line a lot now whenever I talk about how she, changed everything. But here's the thing: this line is connected to Witch Queen, and Witch Queen had a completely different series of events of what happened in, like, her. Oh, she put up deceptions and whatever. And that's not what happened in Lightfall. They changed what happened, and even if she did do that in Lightfall, sorry, even if she did do that in the collapse, and Lightfall, that was on top of what she did in Lightfall. What she did in Lightfall's lore way is a bigger deal than that. And I think even in season of season of plunder, they added in another explanation for it. I can't remember exactly. But
In a minute.
with Lightfall, then she kills Nezarec, cringe, and she steals the veil. That is literally like, without the veil, the witness cannot get the final shape, and that means there is no reason for it to still be there. And her stealing the veil is really what saved us. It would save the whole universe. Screw us, right? Like, if the witness doesn't get the final shape, the whole universe is saved. If the witness does get the final shape, the universe is screwed. And if the witness made the link with the veil and the traveler during the collapse when there were no guardians and no one else could go inside the Pale Heart, that would have been GG. That would have been it. Like, that actually would have been it. Her doing that saved the entire universe. And the problem with this is that throughout the whole 10 years of Destiny lore, it's always been the Traveler's sacrifice is what saved us. Even in Unveiling,
Yes.
you know, that refugee chose to make a stand, and we're the final argument of the Gardener, and all of it means absolutely nothing now with what Savathun did. And my biggest issue with this, apart from it being unbelievably cringe, is that all of this just was done to prop her up as a character more, because I think the writers just really like her. And I think it's the same logic as to why they put the Witness back in the Books of Sorrow, to prop it up and make it seem cooler and more involved. But it comes at a cost, which is if you don't fully think about everything and you don't fully understand everything. And I'm not saying they don't, but it's just like, if you don't, you are at a risk of potentially having collateral damage. And so, like, with the Witness being in that far back with the Books of Sorrow, you have the potential collateral damage of, well, if we were going to have the Pyramid Race, the ancient humanity, well, now the time thing is completely messed up, but maybe they didn't think of that. With the Witch Queen and Lightfall and Savathun being at the collapse and practically saving the day, it nullifies the need for a Traveler's sacrifice. And if the Traveler did sacrifice itself, it didn't really do anything, I guess. So that's my biggest issue with Savathun as a whole. I do think that her being, and also I'm not gonna say it on stream, but basically there's actually a real world reason why Savathun constantly keeps coming up, and there is a real, and it's actually, I think people would be surprised by it. And there's that as well, which is kind of interesting. But no, I if I'm being unbiased and I take my own feelings out of it, I think I don't want to put her in Ascendant. I think she should be an A.
Honestly, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. But then, yes, like I would consider myself a Savathun fanboy. She's one of my favorite villains in Destiny. But a lot of what you say, like a lot of your points, make a lot of sense. Like, because the whole thing with like the collapse and the sacrifice, there was like the whole point of that was there was not supposed to be anything else the Traveler could do, like the Gardener could do.
Yeah.
That was it. That was like the last ditch, like hoorah, for it to like find a way to fight back.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. At the same time, the collapse also, not the collapse. Sorry, the sacrifice is also what made the ghosts, and therefore the guardians. So it kind of nullifies. Like, here's another question for you: if Savathun stole the veil, and that stops the Witness from getting what it wanted during the collapse, and the Witness is forced to leave, what was the point of the Guardians?
Very true.
What was the point of the sacrifice then? So it's just
the only way I could see them making it make sense, and this is even, you really even can't, because even Nezarec confirms that she was a presence there. The only way you can make it make sense is to say that maybe her worm was twisting it in some way. But even then, like I said, it's hard to say because I'd say that Nezarec telling us kind of sets it in
No, because
stone.
there's lore. There's lore of Nezarec dying and her walking away.
Yes,
from
it was the conditional finality lore
Yeah.
tab, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nezarec he sets in stone that she definitely was doing a little trolling. And I do agree with a lot of like that. Like, and I think this is a lot more of a personal thing, I think, but I do think a big thing with Savathun now is the way they used to write her. She was this calculating.
Yeah.
She was a very villainous villain. She used big words. She talked like how you would expect someone from the Hive to talk.
I thought her conversations with us and Crow in Season of the Lost was really, really well done.
Yes. And there's some I think like with a lot of them like newer stuff, like the way they write her. I don't know if this is the right word to say or how it's even a good idea to put it, but they're trying to make her into a girl boss, more or less. Like where she like do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I will also say I didn't like how in Season of the Witch they brought her back just to like die instantly. I feel like that was kind of weird.
Yeah, and then they brought her back again in the lore tab. They should have just made that a cutscene, but budget, time constraints, and the like. That was a good lore tab too.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put her in A, man. Like, but you know what? No, wait a minute. No, I don't know. I'm really conflicted between Ascendant or A. You know what I'm gonna do? Screw it. Second.
Yeah, other than like a lot of the newer things, I do think she's a well-written character.
Heads or tails for Ascendant?
Tails.
We're gonna do best of 3.
Okay.
Okay. Dang it, she wins again. Okay.
She was betting on this, I'm sure.
It was all part of her plan.
Ugh.
Secretly, that like algorithm, whatever thing for the coin toss was actually run by Quria. So.
Oh man, and Quria never died. I remember people were like really thinking that. Do you remember that?
I don't know.
I remember that. There were a lot of people like, oh, Quria might not be dead or something. But then I think her not having control over the Taken sets in stone that Quria is very much scrap metal now.
I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm actually like, I know Rhulk is just a disciple, but he is written so well, and he is extremely powerful too.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna put him in A, and I'll tell you why. I'm gonna put him in A first of all because I don't think he has the same universe like reaching threat as much as the others do. At the same time, I mean, he was involved with the Hive being created and all that, but
yeah.
I don't know.
I'd say what I think that Rhulk did best, even though they haven't really done good on it as of right now. I think what Rhulk did really well is setting up the Witness as a threat, because we spent that whole raid, he was taunting us. He was so casual about it and everything. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure there was literally a line. There's like a line in the database, I think, where he says like, "Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying." Like, he's really Like he's really he's like he'll get like cocky, like and that's how he lost, was because he got cocky. And I think it's really interesting. What I think is really cool about him is, at that point he was definitely like a top 3 most dangerous enemy we had ever
Yeah.
faced, and we were like by the end. And then by the end, we were like, we beat him, and we were like, oh my god, this guy was just a disciple of like the big bad guy.
Yeah.
And I think even if you want to get into like creative aspects of it, you can even get in that with the music, because
Yeah, dude.
like the First Disciple,
Oh, man.
great track. But then something that's really unique about the First Disciple, I think, is most Destiny like especially raid boss tracks, they end with like a heroic tune where you're like, yes, I won.
Yeah,
But the
true.
First Disciple, it doesn't end with
It's a bit ominous.
yeah, it ends with like this unsettling drone where it kind of sets in, where you're like, oh, this dude wasn't even like the most threatening thing we've seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I think he was written well. I think he serves his purpose as a character very well. And yeah, I'm happy with him today. Yeah, I think he's fine today. I wouldn't put him in whatever, but yeah, I'm happy with that. Crota.
Crota.
I
Crota's back.
I
Oh boy.
I'm gonna put him in A, and I'm gonna put
I
him in A for 2
agree.
reasons. The first reason is because I thought it was so, like, what I love about Crota is that he isn't just like, oh, I'm the kid. It's like, like, oh, I'm high up in this company because my dad's the CEO. It's not like that with Oryx, because Oryx literally took his son and threw him into like the Vex whatever, and is like,
yes, emerge victorious or die forgotten.
exactly, bro. Like, and he literally like carved his name throughout history. Like, it's so sick. And it really did a good job
Crota's really awesome.
It did a good job of separating him from his father's shadow. You know what I mean? And the second reason is because he slaughtered this massive guard, possibly the largest Guardian army ever assembled at the moon in the Great Disaster. And yeah, he literally slaughtered so many Guardians. Yeah, no, yeah, I should be an A.
That was for sure.
Insurrection
Even looks cool.
He does look cool. Actually, Marzier thinks that this may have been an early design for what the Taken would have been, based off of early concept art that had the more green than.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and that would make sense. I always thought it was very odd how he looked like that.
By the way, Gabriel said bro sounded like Withered Grandma from SpongeBob. Thank you. Rhulk's not a voice I do a lot. If it's a voice I practice, I can do it good. Let's get on track though. Insurrection. I'd honestly say Insurrection Prime. I'd say he's definitely at least C tier, because the whole thing about him is, yes, he was just a robot with advanced tech, but if we were not there to do something about that, it would have like set off nukes. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Like, how many other characters here have nukes, right? So.
Yeah. I think Tanix does.
Oh, actually, true. Skolas. Do you know what, dude? Skolas. I'm actually torn between it being an A. I actually really like Skolas as a character. He survived the was it at Ceres or whatever, where the House of, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but anyway, House of Wolves got wrecked. He survived, and he escaped. Well, actually, he didn't escape. Sorry, he was freed by the Nine, and he goes and he unites all of the fallen houses, and he uses this ancient prophecy of like the chosen one, or like the Messiah, the Kel of Kells, and they see him as, not only does he claim to be that, but the other houses see him as worthy of that title. Only exception being the House of Kings, but like, it's whatever. And not only that, but then he goes into the Vault of Glass and he begins messing with the Vex tech and stealing
That's
it.
right.
And they can't stop him. And he gets it. And like, who knows what he could have done? He would have united all the fallen houses, probably brought them back from the whooping that we were consistently giving them. And if he was messing with time stuff, that would have been GG, man. I could see him, especially if they
Yeah,
pulled the
especially the Vault of Glass, where like the
yeah.
Vault of Glass actually affects the timeline.
Yep.
It's not just
Yep.
like simulations.
Can you imagine
That's a good point.
the like he goes back and he meets with the army that were at was at like Twilight Gap, and he basically has them enter the Vex network, and then they all come out like 100 years earlier when the city's like far less, you know,
Oh my!
just win.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, I want to put him in A tier, I think, because and then the fact that like he went like a beast, like 1v1 honorable combat, you know what I mean? Like I respected that. That was really cool.
Oh yeah. And then there was even the whole thing where how they used him to set up Oryx, where like after he got captured, they were interrogating him and they were like, "So why would the Nine even let you out in the first place?" And he was like, "Oh, it's because they wanted me to let you guys know that this other dude is on his way and he's not happy."
Yep.
That was a really cool way to set up Oryx, in my opinion.
Oh, can you imagine if it was Skolas who got SIVA? I think Gabriel said
That
that.
would
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah.
That would definitely be interesting.
I think he's A tier. I think he was great. Eramis.
Okay, so the way with certain characters, I kind of like to look at narrative themes they kind of go for. And I think Eramis is one such character. Throughout most of what you see of her, she acts like a bitch, to put it bluntly. She is not a kind lady. But if you kind of look at like her like thematic writing, like the way she's written, it's kind of I kind of see it as she's this representation of what happens when you're so strucken with grief that you begin to act irrational. I kind of feel like that's like what a lot of her actions were, because they didn't make sense.
No.
Like being like, I'm going to get my revenge on I'm going to get my revenge on the darkness destroying us by destroying the traveler and working with the darkness. Rah!
Yeah.
Like a lot of that I think was just she was so strucken by grief that she didn't know what to like latch onto, and so that's kind of, and like seeing the traveler leave and then it gets with humanity and makes the guardians, she latches onto that anger, and I feel like that's like where a lot of her like irrational just actions come from. And I think that that's like the story arc they were trying to go for, because you even see that where at the end you get like the end of a season of the Seraph where she's like, okay, I'll do what the witness says and I'll activate the super weapon, yeah, and blow the traveler up, and then it fails and the traveler doesn't leave. And then she's like, oh, why isn't it leaving? I think that was like the moment where like it snapped in her head where she was like, oh, maybe what I'm doing is not what I should be doing. I think in that aspect, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like the way they write her in that regard.
Yeah, I just find her petulant. I find her irritating. I think that was there anything I actually liked about her?
I do think the House Salvation as a whole was kind of executed in a lame manner. They kind of like in a lot of ways, like the Dark Empire was kind of like a weird recycled version of kind of what they did with like the Scorned Barons.
I think they were originally going to be just House of Dusk. So if you watch the first Beyond Light trailer, the Fallen in that are wearing just the House of Dusk colors.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I don't even know, dude. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I just really want to put her in trash. There's nothing about the character that I like, and I think they didn't have the guts to kill her because they I don't know, they like her or something, I don't know, but I think she should have died. She served her purpose, which it shouldn't have been the purpose of the story, but she was the main villain of Beyond Light. I think they should have just left it at that. She's now kind of just meandering as a character, and she hasn't like redeemed herself at all, really. I don't know if they're going to or not, but
I don't think so. I think that they, from what it seems like they just kind of took her out of the equation entirely.
Yeah.
Because she just kind of, after Lightfall, she just kind of decided to go back to Reese. So I kind of think that that's them kind of saying, all right, we're just going to put this character aside and focus on other stuff.
Put her aside too. I don't know. I can't. I just don't. And then this is just obvious. Like, it's just so obvious. Oryx literally is one of the best characters
100%.
I've ever seen. And it all comes down to like the Books of Sorrow, man, and it's just done so well. And again, like in terms of the writing and the character, excellent. In terms of the threat, dude, literally, like the Dreadnought was so powerful.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And not only that, the Books of Sorrow, they straight up set the standard for villains in Destiny.
That's Seth
because like that is so like it does such a good job of like that world building. Like Seth Dickinson did a wonderful job with that. He is a very good author.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Dreadnought's blast could destroy pyramids. I wouldn't be surprised.
Hard to say, but it is paracausal, so
like it's literally the like sword logic. My will is put onto the universe. I don't know, because here's the thing, like, would it kill the Witness? No, but I think the ships themselves, here's the thing, the ships themselves can actually, the only thing that makes the ships actually powerful in terms of defensive capability is really the shielding, right? And Asher kind of goes into it in Season of Arrival's lore, where he he does like tests and he sees how the shields work. I think the shields are really what carries the defense capabilities of the pyramid ships. I feel like Oryx's blast would just bypass that completely.
Honestly, I think you're right. But since Oryx, since that's paracausal, I definitely think it could do some damage to an extent.
But I think the Witness wouldn't be affected at all.
Probably, I know. The Witness, I mean, it can float around in space, so it would probably just stand there while the ship gets ripped apart. And, I don't know what you'd call it. Wiggle his fingers together or whatever, thinking about evil.
Yeah, but no, Oryx is ascendant. There's no, it's easiest one to do out of all these.
I also will say, out of even, I guess, other than the Witness, I would say Oryx is probably the villain we've had to put the most time and effort into getting rid of so far, because it wasn't just go in and kill him with a raid mechanic. With Oryx, we had to literally climb the pyramid of whittling down his court one by one, getting rid of his influence on all the different planets. It was a big process.
It was a Taken War.
Yeah, that was. And I think that if they want to go in the direction, I don't know if there are any more with episodes, but if they still want to do the evolving world thing, they need to take something from the Taken War, where something happens that affects everything in the game. It kind of feels like they're leaning into that direction just a tiny little bit, because they got stuff at the Heroic Blight events, a Tormentor spawns now instead of a Taken Knight or a Taken captain, but like that's still I'm hoping that like when they introduce the dread and stuff, they do something like that
Yeah.
where there's just occasionally a dread invasion on like one of the maps, where like a pyramid flies in and just drops them all off or something.
I wouldn't be surprised if that did happen. Yeah. Yeah, I would
And
like
that
to
would
see
make
that.
it feel fresh.
Something that made the Taken King really awesome was like he'd be on a destination and then the Taken would be there.
Yeah. It's even
still are.
crazier when you don't know. Yeah, they do still show up in that, huh? It's even crazier. Like if you were like me, I was a Taken tot. I started playing during the Taken King, and I remember going on to Venus and Taken just spawned, and I was like, "What are these? Oh my god!" Like
Yeah.
that's really like when something in your game's world makes you react that way, that's a sign that you're doing something right.
Mm-hmm. For sure, dude. Yeah. So yeah, Oryx is just, yeah, it's not even close. This is the consecrated mind? No, sanctified mind.
Sanctified, yes.
I don't even really see. If I asked Archival, he would probably tell me a lot more about them. I don't really know enough about this character. Because I don't know what their actual reach is and how strong they really are, I can't put them in B. So I think I'm just gonna put them in C because they're not really expanded on at all. Like,
Yeah.
they're cool, but I just don't really know. They're not trash, but I mean the encounter is trash, but the actual
My best guess is that maybe the because you got like the remnants of the pyramid inside the tree stump at the end of the raid, where like the pyramid scaler pops out and then you can go inside. Maybe those two raid bosses, maybe they somehow tapped into like that pyramid tech in some way, and that's how they get like the darkness powers. I don't know.
I don't
That
know.
is me again, just spitballing it and just throwing an idea out there. It's really hard to say. They could literally just be, oh, darkness, evil, Vex boss, kill it, have fun, bye bye.
Yeah.
It's
No,
hard to.
I agree. It's just there's too much like left to I guess speculation. So I'm not gonna put them in trash, but I don't think there's enough to put it in B. So I'm just gonna put it in
Yeah,
C. I'm happy with that.
like they're pretty much, they're just raid bosses and not much
Yeah.
else really.
Exactly. Mr. Tanix the Panix.
Oh, the Scarred himself, the Atom Smasher of Destiny.
I know it's like a meme that he comes back all the time, and he did kill the Hunter Vanguard, but he doesn't really have that much like depth or like writing to him. Like, he's cool, but I don't think the cool factor is enough to put him in A tier. Like, there's not a chance he's in the same level as Rhulk.
Yeah, and I'd say like I like the idea of his character where he's like this super dangerous fallen bounty hunter, pretty much mercenary. But in terms of like depth of writing, the only thing he really does that's like kind of interesting in that sense is in Deepstone Crypt, where when he's brought back, he immediately recognizes us and gets pissed and like smashes the
Yeah.
glass.
Yeah.
Other than that, he doesn't really do anything, though.
I'm thinking
Other
B
than
tier.
being like, I recognize you. Yeah, I'd say B tier because he just has an iconic status.
Yep. This is was it Zolmak?
That. Yes, the Zolmak. I'd say the boss himself was kind of meh, but the he does kind of have some interesting background information
Yeah.
about him, because like you get like his whole story is from Inquisition of the Damned.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So I'd say pretty much, I'd like to really summarize it. His whole thing is pretty much just more of Savathun manipulating things behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
I am probably gonna put him in C tier, honestly.
I'd say that's fair.
I
yeah.
wouldn't put him in the same boat as Riven or Quria, right? But he's not trash.
You know, he doesn't have that much depth. Like, he's kind of interesting. He's like, he's not like, whoa. He's kind of like, huh. It's kind of neat, I suppose.
I'm just gonna interpret this picture to be all the barons.
Um,
Because there's Fikrul
yeah,
and then the
sure.
Barons as far. Um,
I
I don't know.
I think the ideas of their characters are kind of neat,
Yeah.
but I'd say I think I know someone else put it this way. I don't remember who, but it makes a lot of sense. I think it was I Hate Everything who did, if anyone knows who that is, but they're pretty much the Koopalings. They're pretty much the Koopalings from Mario,
Oof.
because you go through before you get to the big boss, which would have been like Uldren at the time. So like, but they each have like their own gimmick, which is kind of interesting. They kind of got some decently interesting lore. I'd say out of all of them, the most interesting one's probably either Fikrul himself or the Mindbender.
Yeah, dude, I thought the Mindbender was so cool.
Like the implications of that are interesting, where he just sort of made his own throne world. It wasn't a super cool one, but it was still neat. It was like a little battle arena.
Do you think that they should be B or C tier?
I'd say,
I'm actually thinking B, just because Fikrul
yeah,
has lasted for so long.
yeah, I'd agree. I think B. I think B is fair.
Val, isn't this Valcor?
Yes.
Not enough is known about him. Like, he's cool, but not enough is really...
Yeah, the idea of him's kind of neat, where he went into the raid and he kind of harnessed like psionic power, if I remember correctly.
Right.
But even in universe, he was only like the leader of the Red Legion at the time because they were desperate and had no one else who was qualified enough.
Right.
I'd say he could be like top of C tier, or
Yeah.
no, not above the other ones, but
I
like
just put him in
like
C.
mid-level C tier.
Just put him in
Yeah.
C, yeah. A-Train, oh, sorry, Atrax.
Atrax, I'd say Atrax, a very iconic raid boss. Obviously,
Do
they
you
put
remember
her
when we
in
were doing
Pantheon.
the
Oh
we won't
boy,
go into that,
fun.
but that was funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember. I think I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Um, I'd say the concept of her being an exo is kind of neat, but other than that, Atrax doesn't really have that much character depth that I know of anyway. I guess there's like Mask of Bacchus, which is like her skull, technically, if I remember correctly. That's kind of like gnarly and cool, but the
What?
character herself, eh. Oh,
No,
did you not know that?
that's not Atrax's. No, because Bakras is a different character.
Oh no, because it's the Mask of Let me pull this up real quick. Let me pull, because I know like it's the Mask of Bacchus, but it is Atrax's skull. Let me look this up. Mask of who joined by oh, Azure, hello. Let's see here. Mask of Bacchus. Yes. So yeah, I cast of my carapace to be reborn, just like our glorious Reese. Atrax 1, Fallen Exo. It's so the lore tab it is Atrax's skull, but like because it talks about the lore tab is Bacchus making her like let go of her old body, like symbolically by like tearing the skull out of her own face while she's an Exo.
Right.
So it's like this weird like body horror sort of thing. But yeah, it is her skull that's in that helmet.
Okay. I mean, it's neat, but I
I
think she would
but
stay
like
C tier.
yeah, it's neat, but yes. Yeah, like she doesn't have that much depth. That's only, if I remember, that's the only place where we really hear much about her at all. I think the other exception is like the thing they put out for the Pantheon, like, oh, she might have more bodies or something. Like, not a character with much depth.
Yep.
The next person, on the other hand, Crow.
Uldren rather.
That's Uldren technically, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I
used to
really liked
calling
him.
him Crow now. I think Uldren is a very iconic villain, just the way they executed it, and I do think of all the people to pick to kill Cade, the fan favorite character, I think Uldren was a perfect choice because he was already kind of a dick throughout
Yeah.
most of Destiny 1.
His writing was on point. Like, I want to put him in A tier, but what's stopping me is that he actually doesn't have that much threat. Not really.
Yeah, he's just kind
He's-
of I mean, Awoken, I guess you could say, are paracausal, but he himself is kind
yeah.
of just like a dude.
I mean, like,
he
I think, to be fair, he did have the Scorn, but the Scorn, you can only have so many Scorn, right? Because of the Fallen.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna put him in B tier, but not because like, just because he himself as a threat wasn't that hot. Like after he freed Riven, I mean, actually, honestly, Uldren did win, but his reward would have been death. If we didn't save him, he would have died.
He would have just been eaten.
So, I think, yeah, so yeah, B tier. And now we come to Nezarec.
Oh boy. With what I really I'm sure that the poor writing team did what they could with the poor fellow. But like
I don't.
I mean like with the limit they had, like obviously the way they executed him is not good. Like he was not
No.
executed well. But I just think that with what they like the time allotted and the rush they were in, I think that they were just kind of
see any
we
excuse
don't
for it.
know.
I think there's a high chance that Nezarec was not even originally intended for Lightfall, and that they just put him in last minute.
He does feel like a last minute addition.
I think even so. First of all, they completely, like, a lot of what I talk about regarding Nezarec is based off of like D3 and potentially what was going on with that, right? But even if you take all of that out of it, they broke his helmet's lore. Like the core of Nezarec, taking like hidden stuff out of it, is his helmet, and they fundamentally broke that. Like that's just you. That's just you not taking that into consideration or thinking about it. And then at the same time, they make him a disciple, which again breaks the helmet's lore. But even with that, bro, you're telling me that you're making the final god of pain, and you're just gonna stick a version of his head onto a tormentor's body and call it a day? Like I just
like,
don't. I just didn't like.
There's a lot of. I mean, I'm just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but yeah, like the way a lot of. I do still agree with you. Yes, they could have made him way cooler than they did. I don't know. I just there was